Hi everyone, it's me, Tim. Today I want to share lessons I've learned as an old person. I'm going to put this up on a Friday. I'm not sure if it counts as a fun Friday, but it's not as much game development as it's lessons I've learned or have come to learn now that I'm older. And since all I've ever done is game development, it's game development stories. Context, I turned 60 a few weeks ago. Many of you gave me happy birthday wishes. Thank you. I know this isn't going to go up till the end of October, but for me, my birthday was just about 3 weeks ago. And a friend asked me if I felt different because I turned 60. And I told him mostly I don't. Yes, I do have aches in places that never ached before. And places that have ached before, they ache a lot now. But I still like games as much as I used to. I still way like sweets more than I should. But the one thing I was always told was that as you got older, you stopped appreciating like new music and other new entertainment. That has not happened. I still like new music, new TV shows, new movies. And I wonder if that has to do with streaming, because a lot of stuff enters my awareness unasked for. Like when I tell that thing, which I'm not going to name, to play some music, it will often stream music I haven't heard before, intermixed with stuff I like. And I've discovered a lot of new bands that way. So I like this era because it doesn't make me feel like I'm getting older. But I started thinking about what are some things that have changed in me over time. And I would describe that as lessons I learned over the decades, literally by getting older. Not things that I learned by like something happening repeatedly, but just I got older and I'm like, oh, yeah, I think there's a different way to look at that. Now, I have tons of other lessons video. I have a whole video about lessons I learned from failure. I have one where I tried to break down all the lessons I learned in the game industry by company. I made one about lessons I learned from a really bad teacher in college. I even have one that, I like to collect different fragrances and colognes, and I have what I've learned about the game industry from that hobby. I'm not going to repeat those. There's links below, so I'm not going to try to repeat myself here. So this is things that I look back on and I think, yeah, I've changed. I don't feel that way anymore. And I'm going to start with, I seem to have less tolerance for stuff I don't like. So what I mean by that is if I'm watching a TV show or reading a book or playing a game and I don't like it, I just stop playing it. I don't feel this need to finish it. Like I've got to finish this and see what everybody was talking about, or I'm required to finish it, or I haven't done my due diligence or whatever. And I think part of that comes from I'm far less swayed by other people's opinions. I wasn't much when I was younger, but now even if everybody loves something, I don't feel the need to jump on the bandwagon and go, okay, I'm going to love that too. If I don't like it, I don't like it. And yeah, I've got a whole video about there are no bad games because there's just bad games for you. I recognize something is this isn't good for me. It wasn't made for me. It doesn't seem to be directed at me. I'm moving on because guess what? There's 24,999 other games for me to look at. I will look at one of those. At the same time, I don't try to convince people who liked a game or a TV show to hate it because I did. That I call that not yucking other people's yums. And it basically boils down to is if somebody enjoys something, I just let them enjoy it. If they want to talk about it and they want to pull me into it, I'll say, I didn't like it. I thought the acting was bad. I thought the writing was bad. I thought the CG was bad. I thought the story was bad. And we can talk about that. But I don't try to convince them, oh, then you should hate this show. I usually if they ask me, I'm like, yeah, I wasn't really into it, but if you liked it, rock on. I don't try to convince them, yeah, that show is bad and I need to justify my opinion by making you hate it. I used to try doing that, and I see lots of people doing that now. And I think basically it boils down to is people have different tastes, and you can't argue someone's taste to change. And I watch people do that, and it's like they're just beating their head against the wall saying, why do you like vanilla? Chocolate is better. And it's like, let them like vanilla, and then you can eat all the chocolate. By the way, I've had people push back on that and go, there's such things as bad games. Crashing's bad. If a game crashes, that's a bad game. And I'm like, you know what? Crashing is a bad thing. No one ever plays a game and goes, I hope this game crashes. But even if a specific thing is bad like that, like crashing, or in a TV show, what you consider to be really stiff acting, or maybe bad writing that the actor was directed to be stiff with. Some people just ignore that, especially if the rest is good, and they ignore it. That is part of your taste. If a game crashes once and never crashes again, a lot of people are like, I'll just restart. Oh, it's stable after that. It must have been a fluke. Some people, though, oh, it crashed. Bad game. I'm not playing anymore. How many times a game has to crash before you consider it bad is your threshold. And that's subjective. And that's what I mean. Just saying crashing makes a game bad. No, because I'm sure you've all played games that crashed and you like them. There's something else involved there, and it has to do with your own personal thresholds and tastes. And I think what I've discovered as I get older is I'm not going to put up with something if it hits my threshold. I'm done. There's too many other things out there to watch and to enjoy and to play. Similarly to this is, as I've gotten older, I've stopped assuming malice when somebody does something bad. As a friend of mine once said, it's like, just assume they're incompetent. I'm like, no, I don't have to do that either. But I used to, when I saw someone behaving badly, I used to assume bad intent. Like, that person is trying to be bad. They're being a bad person. As I grew older and I gained this perspective, I found that some people do things they don't want to do. They know it's bad, but they feel like they have to do it. Why? Because the alternative is worse. Like, nobody ever wants to lay off people. I laid off people from Troika. I didn't want to do that, but we had no money left. There was no alternative. The alternative was to completely shut down the company, which I had to do like 3 or 4 months later. And in that interim, I tried to find other contracts that we would want to do, but there was just no alternative. So to the people who got laid off, that was bad. And I won't argue that it was good, but the intent wasn't there. I wasn't trying to be bad. I've also met a large number of people who think the bad thing they did was actually good, and they spin it to be good. And they're upset that other people think they're being bad. And I don't want to give examples here because it really would let you pinpoint who I'm talking about. But I've met tons of people in the industry who think they're good guys, even though they do bad things, because they don't even think those things are bad. They think they're doing a good thing. It's like, if you say like ripping plants out of the ground is bad, you've obviously never weeded a garden. So weeding a garden is good, but I can see why some people are like, stop, you're killing plants. Sometimes your perspective is what's providing the good and badness. And then one other thing I wanted to mention, because how can you talk about lessons you learned about getting old without talking about agism? I have a whole video on agism. I'm not going to repeat all of that. I'll link it below. But I just want to say that I didn't see agism early in the game industry, and I'm talking like in the 80s. Now, maybe it was there and I didn't notice. I mean, I was literally a teenager. So maybe I just didn't notice it. But I don't think it was there, because in the 80s, we were all equally inexperienced at making games. There was no person going, well, I've been making games for 30 years, because they hadn't been around. When I started in 1981, video games hadn't been around for more than about 5 years, 10 tops. So there weren't all these super experienced people running around. So not only did the industry skew young, even if older people were doing it, we were all about equally experienced. So I didn't think there was a lot of ageism. Now, though, oh my God, I've heard people say the most terrible things. Here's a quote. Quote, "This is why I hate working with old people," unquote. And this person said it unapologetically. And I bet you they think they're a good person. And guess what? This is going to come back and bite them in the butt. Because, first of all, blaming a whole group for one thing that you encountered, well, there's a word for that. And for some things, sure, it may be possible that in general, people in this group are awful. But if you blame everything on that, you're being a little bit discriminatory. And I think this is going to bite you later, because if you're wondering how you today are going to be judged by future generations, I think this is one of those things. And they're going to say, I can't believe this person said that. How my God, they said that publicly. They thought they were right. And that's what a lot of generations now think of previous generations. And you're setting yourself up for that. I guess you might say that older Tim is more mellow than younger Tim was. I know I've changed some of my design philosophies over time. And I'm not even saying I would change them. I refined them. I I understood what I knew better. And then rather than just doing things instinctively, I started applying rules to what I wanted to do. And also, I've made enough games that I saw what worked and what didn't, and also what people liked and what didn't. Because sometimes I think things worked, but it just wasn't popular. It wasn't a feature people were begging for, and I didn't do it again in later games. Which means, of course, my designs now are very different than they were in my games 20 or 30 years ago. And I see people who argue that, hey, you've changed, man. This is terrible. You should go back to making games like you did in the 90s. And I'm like, but there's a reason we don't do that. And it has to do with popularity and refinement, and things have gotten different. And yeah, some of the stuff we've left behind would still be fun to do, but a lot of it just wouldn't work. And guess what? That's normal. You should be open to changing your mind on things. And if you're not, that's what closed-mindedness is. And some of you are probably saying right now, no, that's just your passion fading, man. And that's just you not being into what's cool anymore. And I'm like, you know what? That's the whole thing I'm talking about. If you lump that into ageism, if me changing a design philosophy, the only way you can cope with that is saying it's because I've gotten older, that's what ageism is. Personally, I think my wisdom score has gone up if I was a D&D character. I don't think I'm smarter or better or faster at my job, but I certainly am more experienced. And that experience sometimes comes across as looking like those things. I will put together something more quickly. It will be better defined. People can take it and do more stuff with it. And that isn't because I'm any smarter. It's just I've done so much stuff. I've got so much experience that it guides what I do. And I think that's what wisdom is. And wisdom does come with age. Now, if only I didn't ache so much.